If someone had told me that the very first woman I kissed would turn out to be both my boss and the great love of my life, I'd have laughed them off as delusional. Sunday brunch at Sunny Side Up was always the same kind of chaos, forks clinking against plates. The sharp hiss of the espresso machine, conversations tumbling over each other, and the too loud laughter of a birthday group packed into the corner booth. For me, that noisy rhythm had become its own kind of comfort. Claire Bennett stirred a third packet of sugar into her lukewarm coffee, watching the granules dissolve into a beige vortex. Across the chipped Formica table, her best friends Nora and Layla were locked in a heated debate about the merits of avocado toast versus pancakes. "It's about texture, Layla," Chloe insisted, gesturing with a fork full of said toast. "That creamy richness against the crunch of the seeds." "It's about joy," Nora pre-accounted, dramatically soaring into her stack of fluffy pancakes. "Pure, unadulterated, maple-drenched joy." "Claire, back me up here." Claire blinked, dragged from her contemplation of the swirling coffee. Uh-oh, they're both fine. Carbs are carbs. She took a sip, the sweetness barely masking the bitterness underneath. Layla lowered her fork, studying Claire. "Okay, spill. You've been orbiting planet zoned out all morning. Is it the new job jitters?" "Starting tomorrow at Sinclair Media is kind of a big deal." Claire managed a small smile. "Nerves?" "Yeah, definitely. But it's something else too." She traced the rim of her mug. "It's dating." Nora perked up. "Oh, did creepy Greg from accounting finally take the hint after the restraining order light suggestion?" Claire snorted, a genuine flicker of her dry humor surfacing. "No, thankfully, though he did send me a spreadsheet analyzing our compatibility metrics, highlighted in conditional formatting." She shuddered. "No, it's not Greg. It's all of them." Layla tilted her head. "All of the Gregs. All of the men," Claire clarified, the words feeling strange and heavy as she said them aloud. She kept her voice soft, almost lost in the den. I don't think I'm into them." "Not really. Not the way I'm supposed to be." Silence settled over their table, distinct from the surrounding noise. Nora and Layla exchanged a look that was less surprise and more recognition. "Okay," Chloe said gently, leaning forward. "Define not into them like disinterested or actively repulsed." Claire sighed, pushing her unruly dark hair behind her ear. "Disinterested, mostly like going through the motions. The dates feel like job interviews where I'm spectacularly unqualified. The kissing fine, sometimes pleasant enough, I guess, but never." She searched for the word frustration, knitting her brows. "Never electric, never something I actively crave. It always feels like I'm waiting for a feeling that just doesn't show up. Like I'm defective." Lila reached across and squeezed her hand. "Oh, honey, you're not defective. Maybe you just haven't met the right person." "That's what I keep telling myself," Claire exclaimed, a hint of exasperation in her voice. "But I'm 27. How many right persons do I have to cycle through before realizing? Maybe the whole premise is flawed for me." She fiddled with a loose thread on her cardigan. "Sometimes I think I just like the idea of dating men, the societal script, the safety of the expected, but the reality me." Nora's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Okay, let's try a different angle. Forget dating for a second. Think pure appreciation. Objectively attractive men. Ryan Cooper, Malik Harris. Does looking at them do anything?" Claire shrugged. "Sure, they're aesthetically pleasing like a nice painting or a well-designed chair." Lila choked on her orange juice. "A chair?" "Well, a very nice chair," Claire defended weakly. "But yeah, admiration, not attraction." "Okay," Maya pressed, a playful glint in her eye. "Now, objectively attractive women. Kate Blanchett in that sharp tuxedo in Ocean's 8. Florence Pugh absolutely wrecking that wrestling ring. Zinaya just existing." Something shifted in Claire's expression. A subtle warmth crept up her neck. She didn't just admire, she lingered. She remembered the precise angle of Kate Blanchett's smirk, the intensity in Florence Pugh's eyes, the effortless grace in Zinaya's walk. Her cheeks flushed slightly. "Well, they are incredible. Obviously powerful, magnetic." Her voice dropped almost to a whisper. "I mean, who doesn't appreciate Kate Blanchett?" Nora pointed her fork accusingly. a triumphant smile spreading across her face. I, Claire Bennett, you light up like a damn Christmas tree every single time Kate Blanchett shows up on screen. Or Tessa Thompson, or literally any woman who exudes even a hint of competence and cool. That's not appreciation, honey. That's not nothing. Layla nodded vigorously. She's right. Remember movie night last month, Carol? You were practically vibrating during that diner scene. You rewound it twice and mumbled something about the lighting. The lighting was exceptional. Claire protested, her blush deepening, but Nora's words echoed. Lighting up, did she? She thought about the flutter in her stomach watching certain actresses. The way she'd replay scenes featuring women she found compelling. The way conversations with certain female colleagues left her feeling strangely energized and flustered. Feelings she'd always attributed to admiration or social awkwardness. Could it be more? So what are you saying? Claire asked, her voice barely audible over the clatter of dishes. That maybe, Layla said gently. It's worth exploring a different possibility. Maybe the script you've been trying to follow isn't yours? Nora leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Okay, hear us out. There's this place, the Looking Glass. It's friendly, queer-owned, queer-run. Very chill vibe, not a meat market. Mostly women and non-binary folks. We go sometimes just to dance, hang out, no pressure. Claire's eyes widened. A club, like a gay club. The word felt foreign and thrilling on her tongue. Yes, Claire. Nora grinned. A gay club. Specifically sapphic leaning. We think you should come with us tonight. Panic fluttered in Claire's chest tonight, but I start my new job tomorrow. What if I'm tired? What if I spill something on my interview suit? What if? What if I go and just stand there like a terrified mannequin? Then you stand there like a terrified mannequin, Layla said practically. And we'll bring you drinks and point out interesting architectural features. Worst case scenario, Raina added, her tone softening but eyes serious. A lovely woman politely flirts with you. You find it deeply unsettling and confirm you're likely straight. Annoying, perhaps, but clarifying at best. Nora's smile turned knowing. A lovely woman politely flirts with you, and you realize it sparks something entirely new, something electric. Claire glanced down at her coffee, now cold and abandoned. The social script she'd always followed suddenly felt thin, like a costume that never truly fit. The idea of the club was terrifying, a leap into the unknown. Yet beneath the fear, something else stirred. Curiosity, sharp and persistent. A glimmer of anticipation. The memory of Kate Blanchett's smirk flashed through her mind, along with the stubborn, hollow feeling she often had around men. She drew a deep breath and met her friend's eager, supportive eyes. The noise of the brunch crowd softened to a distant murmur. Her heart pounded against her ribs, a frantic rhythm beneath her quiet dawning certainty. Maybe Chloe had a point. Maybe it wasn't nothing. A slow, nervous, yet undeniably curious smile touched Claire's lips. All right, she whispered, the word feeling like a small, brave jump. All right. The Looking Glass tonight, but you're buying the first round, and probably the second. And you absolutely cannot abandon me. Nora and Lila grinned, exchanging a look of triumph. Deal, Nora announced, lifting her mimosa. To new possibilities. To Claire, Layla added, clinking her glass and figuring things out. Claire raised her cold, oversweetened coffee cup, her hand trembling slightly. To not being a terrified mannequin, she took a sip. The sweetness suddenly tasted less like armor and more like promise. The world outside the diner seemed brighter, sharper, full of beautiful uncertainty. The first page of a new chapter had been turned, written in nervous, eager script. Part 2. Do you come here often? The bass vibrated deep in her bones before she even saw the door. The Looking Glass. Neon letters glowed above a discreet black entrance tucked between a used bookstore and a busy noodle shop. Nora and Layla flanked her, projecting a confident energy that almost shielded Claire from her rising dread. Deep breaths, Layla urged, squeezing her arm. Worst case, free drinks and great architecture. Best case, she added with a wink, electrocution. Claire swallowed, her throat tight. She had overthought her outfit, finally choosing dark jeans, a silky emerald top that felt daringly low-cut, and her favorite boots. Now, under the throbbing neon, it felt like too much and not enough all at once. Architectural appreciation, she repeated to herself, stealing her nerves. Right, stepping inside was like crossing into another world. The air hung heavy with the smell of sweat, rich perfume, and something sweet and smoky. Strobes cut through a dry ice haze, lighting up a crowd moving together on the dance floor. The music wasn't just loud, it was physical, a deep pounding rhythm that echoed in Claire's chest. Everywhere she looked, there were women, talking, laughing, dancing, flirting. Short hair, long hair, glitter, leather, silk, denim. They radiated confidence. Claire felt like a frightened rabbit that had stumbled into a room full of powerful, elegant lions. Claire. Layla yelled over the music, pointing toward a slightly calmer area near the back. Bar, liquid courage first. Making her way through the crowd felt like running a gauntlet. Claire fixed her eyes on Layla's back, hyper-aware of every accidental touch, every curious look sent her way. Her thoughts raced. Asterisk, don't trip. Don't accidentally make eye contact. Why is everyone so effortlessly cool? Is my top too shiny? Do I look like I'm trying too hard? Or not enough? They finally reached the relative safety of the long, polished bar. Mirrors covered the wall behind it, multiplying the swirling lights in motion until the room felt endless and overwhelming. Nora caught the attention of a bartender with a rainbow undercut and detailed sleeve tattoos. 3 gin and tonics, extra lime, she ordered, then turned to Claire, eyes bright. Okay, mission objective, practice, Claire stared. Practice. What? Flirting, Lila said, leaning in. Or at the very least, practice smiling at women who aren't us or serving you coffee. Look around. See someone interesting? Catch their eye. Give a little smile. See what happens. Claire's stomach dropped. Asterisk smile at a stranger. On purpose. Asterisk. Layla, I once hid in a bookstore restroom for 20 minutes because a barista smiled and said, "Have a nice day." Exactly, Nora said firmly. Time to level up. Baby steps. Try someone non-threatening. Maybe over there. She subtly tilted her head toward a group chatting lively near the end of the bar. See the one in the flannel? She looks nice. Claire followed her gaze. The woman did look nice, approachable. She was laughing at something her friend said. Claire took a shaky breath. Okay, just look. Maybe a tiny smile. She attempted it, her lips feeling stiff and unnatural. The woman glanced over. Claire instantly snapped her head back towards the bar, her cheeks flaming, focusing intently on a bottle of obscure blue liquor as if it held the secrets of the universe. Abort, abort, she hissed, grabbing her gin and tonic the second it landed. The cold glass was a lifeline. Nora sighed good-naturedly. Okay, plan B, we go dance. Lose yourself in the music. Stop thinking so hard. The dance floor was even more overwhelming. Bodies pressed close. The music swallowed conversation whole. Claire tried to move, feeling stiff and self-conscious, acutely aware of her limbs. She watched other women, how they moved with fluid confidence, how their eyes met and held across the crowd. The easy intimacy of a hand on a waist, a shared laugh lost in the beat. A wave of longing mixed with intimidation washed over her. It felt like everyone else spoke a language she'd only just discovered existed. After a song that felt like an eternity, Claire tapped Chloe's shoulder. Air, she mouthed, pointing desperately towards the bar area. Chloe nodded, shing her off with an encouraging grin. Claire retreated gratefully, finding a sliver of unoccupied bar space further down. She leaned her back against the cool metal, taking long gulps of her drink, trying to calm her racing heart. This was a mistake. I'm a fraud. A terrified, straight fraud in a green blouse. She stared into the dregs of her gin and tonic, the ice clinking forlornly. That's when she felt it. Not a touch, but a shift in the atmosphere nearby. A subtle displacement of air. A quietening of the surrounding chatter. A presence. Claire looked up and the world narrowed. Leaning against the bar, impossibly elegant amidst the chaos, was a vision. Blonde hair, not platinum, but a rich honeyed. Gold swept back in a sophisticated twist that left a few artful strands framing a face of sharp, breathtaking beauty. High cheekbones, a defined jawline, lips painted a deep velvety crimson. She wore a tailored black jumpsuit that clung to every curve, the deep V neckline revealing a hint of toned décolletage. Simple gold hoops glinted at her ears. In her long fingers, she cradled a glass of amber liquid whiskey neat Clare guessed. But it was her eyes that arrested Clare completely. A piercing, intelligent blue, currently fixed on her with an unnerving, amused intensity. They seemed to catalog Clare in an instant. The nervous grip on her glass, the slightly too wide eyes, the flush creeping up her neck. The woman didn't just occupy space. She commanded it. Power and confidence radiated from her. A quiet magnetism that drew Clare in like a moth to a devastatingly beautiful flame. Clare felt utterly seen, exposed, and completely incapable of looking away. A slow, knowing smile curved those crimson lips. It wasn't predatory, but deeply intrigued. The woman pushed off the bar and took 2 effortless steps closer, the movement smooth as poured silk. The scent of her perfume reached Clare, something expensive, warm, and subtly spicy. Cutting through the club smells like a knife, overwhelmed. The voice was low, husky, and carried effortlessly over the thumping bass. It wasn't a shout, yet it resonated right into Clare's core. Clare's brain short-circuited, words tangled on her tongue. "You're smooth, Bennett. Real smooth." The blonde woman's smile deepened, a spark of genuine amusement lighting her eyes. She took a slow sip of her whiskey, her gaze never leaving Clare's face. "Let me guess," she said, her tone warm and laced with gentle teasing. "You've either never been here before." She paused, letting the implication hang. "Or you've been here 1,000 times and still can't quite believe how gloriously, unapologetically gay it is." The accuracy delivered with that effortless charm and the hint of a shared secret shattered Clare's remaining composure. Relief weared with embarrassment. She managed a shaky, breathless laugh. She gestured vaguely with her near-empty glass. "Option 1, definitely. Is it that obvious?" Her voice came out embarrassingly high-pitched. The woman's blue eyes sparkled. She leaned in fractionally, just enough for Clare to catch another intoxicating wave of her perfume. "Only," she murmured, her voice a low vibration that seemed to bypass Clare's ears and go straight to her nervous system. "To women who pay attention, the words echoed. Clare realized this woman had been paying attention to her, the terrifying mannequin at the bar. The thought sent another wave of heat flooding through her. "Clare," she blurted out, then immediately wanted to crawl under the bar. "Smooth operator, introducing yourself like you're at a corporate mixer." But the blonde woman just smiled, a genuine warmth softening the sharp angles of her beauty. "Clare," she repeated, the name sounding like something precious in her rich voice. She extended her free hand, not for a handshake, but palm up, an open invitation. "I'm Vivien." Clare stared at the offered hand for a split second, mesmerized by the elegant fingers, the perfectly manicured nails. Hesitantly, she placed her own trembling hand into Vivien's. The contact was electric. Vivien's hand was warm, her grip firm, but not crushing. She didn't shake. She simply held Clare's hand for a heartbeat longer than necessary, her thumb brushing almost imperceptibly over Clare's knuckles before releasing her. "Vivien," Clare breathed, the name tasting strange and exciting. "It's loud," Vivien chuckled. Low melodic sound. It is that necessary evil for the atmosphere. I suppose, though, I prefer my conversations at a slightly lower decibel." Her gaze swept over Clare again, appreciative and undeniably interested. "So, Clare, who's never been here before, what brings you into the lion's den tonight?" "Architectural appreciation." Her eyes flickered towards the mirrored wall behind the bar, a knowing glint in them. Clare felt a startled laugh bubble up. "How did you?" Vivien shrugged one elegant shoulder. "You were studying that bottle of H.P. Noik. Like it was the Rosetta Stone, and the way you scanned the room when you first came in. Pure, adorable reconnaissance." She took another sip of whiskey. "Friends dragged you." Guilty, Clare admitted, finding her voice a little stronger now, buoyed by Vivien's directness and the surprising lack of judgment. Brunch intervention. Apparently, my Kate Blanchett appreciation is statistically significant. Vivien threw her head back and laughed, a rich, full sound that drew a few glances. Clare found herself mesmerized by the line of her throat. The Blanchett benchmark, a classic diagnostic tool. She leaned her hip against the bar, her posture relaxed yet radiating an intense focus entirely on Clare and initial findings. Clare met those piercing blue eyes, the panic receding, replaced by a fluttery, unfamiliar excitement. The noise of the club faded into a background hum. It was just Vivien, the warmth of her gaze, the subtle spice of her perfume, and the terrifying, exhilarating realization that this incredibly magnetic woman was choosing to talk to her. Still processing the data, Clare managed a flicker of her dry humor resurfacing. The environment is confounding the variables. Vivien's smile was dazzling. Well, she said, her voice dropping to that intimate murmur again. Perhaps we need a more controlled setting for further analysis. She tilted her head slightly towards the shadowed hallway leading away from the main throng towards the restrooms and possibly an exit. Walk with me. Part 3, the restroom incident. The invitation hung in the air between them, charged and heavy. Walk with me. Vivien's words, delivered in that low, intimate murmur, weren't just a suggestion. They felt like a command wrapped in velvet. The noise of the club, the press of bodies, the relentless thump of the bass, it all receded, muffled as if Clare had plunged underwater. The only sound that mattered was the sudden, frantic drumming of her own heart against her ribs. Clare managed a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. Her throat was too dry for words. Vivien's smile deepened, a satisfied curve of crimson lips, and she turned, effortlessly navigating the edge of the crowd towards the dimly lit hallway, branching off from the main bar area. Clare followed, her movements feeling stiff and automatic, like a marionette whose strings had been pulled. Her mind was a whirlwind. Is this safe? She seems safe. She's Vivien. She smells expensive. She held my hand. But what does walk with me mean? Where are we going? Oh God, is this where I get murdered in a trendy club bathroom? The hallway was a stark contrast to the vibrant chaos of the main room. It was narrower, lit by low, recessed sconces casting long, dramatic shadows on the dark wallpaper. The music was still present, but muted here, a deep rhythmic through rather than an assault. The air felt cooler, carrying faint hints of disinfectant and expensive perfume. Vivien's perfume? Clare realized as the blonde woman slowed her pace. Letting Clare draw almost level with her, they passed a heavy door marked staff only. Vivien didn't stop. Ahead lay the restrooms, their doors slightly ajar, spilling brighter light, and the faint sound of running water and laughter. Just before they reached the restroom entrance, however, Vivien paused beside a heavy unmarked door, likely a utility closet or an emergency exit. The space felt private, cocooned. Vivien turned to face her fully in the dim, moody light. Her features looked even more sculpted, her eyes pools of dark, intense blue. The playful amusement from the bar was still there, but led over it now was something hotter, sharper, and undeniable hunger. Clare's breath hitched. She felt pinned by that gaze, utterly exposed. Clare, Vivien said, her voice a low hum that vibrated in the confined space. She didn't touch her. Not yet. She simply looked, her gaze tracing the line of Clare's jaw, the curve of her lips, the rapid flutter of her pulse visible at the base of her throat. You have the most expressive face, like watching a fascinating storm roll in. Clare swallowed, trying to find her voice, trying to remember how to form words. I do. Vivien took a half step closer, closing the already minimal distance. Clare could feel the warmth radiating from her, smell the heady mix of whiskey and that intoxicating spice. Utterly captivating, Vivien murmured, her eyes dropping to Clare's mouth, and that blush, it's devastating. Clare felt the heat bloom across her cheeks and neck, confirming Vivien's observation. She was hyper-aware of every inch of her own body, of Vivien's proximity, of the charged silence pressing in around them. She opened her mouth, maybe to stammer something, maybe to ask what happened next, but the words died before they formed. It wasn't a question anymore. Vivien moved with startling speed and absolute certainty. One hand slid firmly around Claire's waist, pulling her flush against the hard lines of Vivien's body. The other hand came up, fingers tangling gently but firmly in the hair at the nape of Claire's neck, tilting her head back just slightly. Claire gasped, a small, startled sound lost in the muffled bass. Then Vivien's lips were on hers. It wasn't tentative. It wasn't questioning. It was acclaiming, firm, demanding, yet astonishingly skilled. The shock of it, the suddenness, the intensity, the sheer physical reality of kissing a woman short-circuited Claire's brain. Her world narrowed to the points of contact. Vivien's hand anchoring her waist, fingers played possessively against the small of her back, the other hand holding her head, guiding the angle, the insistent velvet-soft pressure of Vivien's mouth. Moving against her own. For a frozen second, Claire stood rigid, stunned. Her hands fluttered uselessly at her sides. This is happening. Vivien Sinclair is kissing me against a door in a gay club. Oh my God. Then the shockwave hit. Not panic, but a surge of pure, unadulterated sensation that ignited every nerve ending. The softness of Vivien's lips, the faint taste of expensive whiskey, the subtle scrape of teeth, the intoxicating scent of her skin and perfume enveloping Claire completely. It was nothing like the pleasant enough kisses she'd shared with men. This was fire. This was lightning finding its ground. A low, involuntary moan escaped Claire's throat, vibrating against Vivien's mouth. Vivien responded with a growl that seemed to originate deep in her chest. The kiss deepened, turning urgent, searching. Vivien's tongue traced the seam of Claire's lips, seeking entrance. Claire parted them willingly, helplessly, a surrender that felt more like victory. The slide of Vivien's tongue against hers was electric, a slick, sensual exploration that sent jolts of pure pleasure straight down Claire's spine. Her hands finally moved, seemingly of their own accord, finding purchase on Vivien's hips, gripping the smooth, cool fabric of the tailored jumpsuit. She felt the hard muscle beneath, the power contained in Vivien's frame. Time lost all meaning. The muffled club music became a distant pulse, the low light a blur. Claire was lost in a whirlwind of sensation. The heat of Vivien's mouth, the demanding pressure of her body, the scrape of nails against her scalp, the possessive grip on her waist. She kissed back with growing fervor, matching Vivien's intensity with a desperate need she hadn't known she possessed. Her fingers dug into Vivien's hips, pulling her impossibly closer. The door behind her provided the only solid thing in a world that had tilted wildly. Vivien's hand slipped from Claire's hair, tracing a burning path down the side of her neck over the sensitive skin of her collarbone, pausing at the neckline of her emerald blouse. Her thumb brushed the swell of Claire's breast, a touch both deliberate and fleeting, sending another shockwave through her. Claire arched into the touch instinctively, a gasp breaking the rhythm of their kiss. Vivien pulled back just a fraction, her breath coming in short, ragged puffs against Claire's wet lips. Her eyes were dark, dilated, blazing with an intensity that stole Claire's breath anew. She looked utterly undone, her perfect composure shattered, replaced by raw, breathtaking desire. She studied Claire's face, her flushed skin, kiss swollen. Lips, wide, dazed eyes. You, Vivien, breathed, her voice thick and husky, extraordinary. Claire could only stare back, her mind a blank, humming static. Her body felt like liquid fire, trembling with aftershocks. Her lips tingled, her heart hammered against Vivien's chest. She registered the faint sound of the restroom door opening and closing down the hall, the muffled voices, but it felt like it was happening in another dimension. The only reality was Vivien's body pressed against hers, the lingering heat of her mouth, the possessive grip still holding her waist. Reality crashed back in, sharp and sudden. Oh my God, I just made out with a stunning woman in a club hallway, passionately against a door. The sheer audacity of it, the utter departure from her carefully controlled life, hit her like a bucket of ice water, followed immediately by another wave of dizzying heat. She managed a shaky, breathless laugh, trying to ground herself. Is this? She panted, her voice trembling, a normal thing that happens at clubs. The question was absurd. born of sheer, overwhelmed disbelief. Vivien's lips curved into a slow, devastatingly sensual smile, her eyes still locked on Claire's with possessive heat. She leaned in again, her lips brushing Claire's ear, her warm breath sending shivers cascading down Claire's neck. Her voice was a low, intimate purr that vibrated through Claire's entire being. Only she whispered, the words a promise and a confession. When I'm very, very lucky. Her mouth found Claire's once more, softer now, a slow, deliberate, claiming kiss. Before Claire could fully grasp it, Vivien drew back, leaving only a charged few inches between them. Her expression changed. The raw need softened to something more contained, though a heated promise still glowed in her eyes. She lifted a hand, her thumb gently tracing the curve of Claire's kiss-swollen lower lip, a touch so tender it made Claire's chest ache. "Find me before you leave," Vivien murmured, her voice regaining its usual control yet heavy with intent. Then, after one last searing glance, she turned and moved smoothly down the hall toward the club's pulsing core, melting into the crowd like a vision. Claire leaned back against the door, her legs unsteady. She touched her lips, still feeling the ghost of pressure, the slick warmth of Vivien's mouth. Her skin tingled where Vivien's fingers had been. Her whole body hummed with a new, unfamiliar energy. She felt thrilled, terrified, transformed, and completely undone, incredibly lucky. The words lingered in the dim corridor, mixing with the frantic rhythm of her own heart. Claire Bennett pressed a palm to her chest, trying to calm her breathing, to make sense of the earthquake that had just happened against a plain club door. The world outside felt forever changed. And tomorrow was her first day at Sinclair Media. The thought barely broke through the fog of sensory overload and the addictive aftertaste of Vivien Sinclair. Part 4, New Job, Same Lips. The fluorescent lights of Sinclair Media's sleek lobby felt harsh after the haze of the night before. Claire gripped her new hire folder like a shield, her knuckles pale against the stiff manila. The polished marble floor mirrored the sharp-edged corporate logo and her own slightly stunned reflection. Her practical black pumps tapped out a nervous beat in the vast space. Asterisk professional, put together, not thinking about being pressed against a door. Definitely not thinking about the taste of whiskey and costly perfume, or the feel of long fingers. And her hair, or the low, possessive murmur against her mouth. Asterisk, she shut her eyes for a second. Asterisk, focus, Bennett. First day, important job. Assistant marketing coordinator. Do not think about Vivien Sinclair. Vivien, asterisk. The name sent another rush of warmth through her, clashing with the air-conditioned cool of the lobby she hadn't found Vivien before leaving the club. The instant Vivien vanished into the crowd, Claire had fled, a mess of adrenaline and confusion, stumbling back to Mare and Layla, who took in her kissed lips and dazed look and burst into silent, gleeful excitement. She gave them a pared-down story. Asterisk met someone, kissed, incredible, scary, before spending a sleepless night haunted by sensory memories and frantic searches for Sinclair Media CEO asterisk. The results were intimidating. Vivien Sinclair, 35, Harvard, MBA, took over the family media empire at 30 and tripled its worth. Known for her sharp mind, ruthless effectiveness, and flawless, imposing style. Featured in Forbes, Business Insider, Vogue Business. No sign of the woman who had pinned her against a utility closet door. A different Vivien, Claire told herself firmly as she neared the grand reception desk. Asterisk, that was Club Vivien. This is CEO Vivien. Professional Vivien, untouchable Vivien. I am a small, unimportant cog. She won't even notice me? Claire Bennett, the perfectly polished receptionist, asked, offering a warm smile. Welcome to Sinclair Media. I'll notify HR you've arrived. Have a seat. Someone will be with you shortly. Claire sank into a sleek, minimalist chair, trying to slow her racing heart. She straightened her carefully selected outfit, a charcoal pencil skirt, a soft cream silk blouse, a single strand of her mother's pearls, a charm of normality. Her hair was neatly pinned back. She looked capable, professional, nothing like the startled woman in the emerald top the night before. The onboarding was a whirlwind of forms, introductions to a stream of pleasant but efficient HR staff, a tour of the modern open-plan offices humming with concentration, and finally, the assignment of her cubicle. It was compact, tidy, nestled, in a corner of the marketing bullpen beside a window with a city view. Safe, Claire thought, setting down her small box of supplies. Anonymous. Her new manager, Helen, a direct woman with gentle eyes and a no-nonsense bob, gave her a quick overview. Morning briefing in conference room A in 15 minutes, Helen said, passing her a tablet. Standard Monday meeting. Whole department plus senior leadership if they join us. The opportunity to learn who's who. Don't worry. Just listen. Senior leadership. Claire's stomach tightened, including her. She pushed the thought away. Understood. Thank you, Helen. She spent the next 10 minutes pretending to be busy, arranging pens, logging into her computer, her nerves buzzing. The euphoria from the kiss had faded into a steady undercurrent of anxiety mixed with persistent sensory memories. Every time heels passed her cubicle, her head jerked up, her heart pounding. Always someone else. At last, Helen motioned her toward the conference room. Claire followed, holding her tablet tightly, joining a cluster of other new hires and junior team members. The conference room was spacious, centered around a long, glossy table. Sunlight poured through floor-to-ceiling windows, highlighting elegant furniture and costly abstract art. People streamed in, finding seats, exchanging quiet hellos. Claire lingered near the back, trying to seem inconspicuous. Helen pointed to a free chair toward the middle. Take a seat, Claire. Don't be shy. Swallowing hard, Claire slipped into the chair, immediately wishing she'd chosen one farther back. She kept her gaze lowered, feigning deep interest in her tablet's blank screen. Asterisk, just breathe. Fit in. Disappear. Asterisk, the room grew full. Senior. Managers Claire recognized from her tour sat near the head of the table. The quiet talk faded into a respectful hush. Helen stood near the front, checking her watch. All right, everyone, let's get started, Helen said. We'll begin as soon as the atmosphere shifted. It wasn't a noise, but a sudden drop in pressure, a shared, silent pause. The low murmur cut off, replaced by a dense, waiting silence. Claire felt it, a tingling at her nape, the unmistakable feeling of powerful presence. Slowly, driven by an intuition she didn't understand, she looked up. Time froze. Standing in the doorway, outlined by the glaring sun, was Vivien Sinclair, but not the Vivien from the club. This Vivien was a natural phenomenon honed into corporate form. Her honey blonde hair was drawn back into a severe, sleek chignon, not a hair loose. She wore a perfectly fitted pantsuit the shade of deepest night, the fabric hinting at authority with each slight movement. A bright white blouse shone under the jacket. Extreme stilettos added height to her already commanding stature, striking the polished floor with purpose as she walked into the room. Her posture was rigid, emanating total control. Her face, stripped of last night's playful warmth or fierce desire, was a calm, sharp mask of concentration. Her sharp blue eyes scanned the room, evaluating, leading. Claire's breath caught. Her blood chilled, then exploded into flame. The room spun. The glossy table, the waiting faces, the sunlight, everything faded into a hazy, distant backdrop. The only thing in sharp, terrifying focus was Vivien Sinclair. CEO Vivien Sinclair, her boss. The carefully constructed wall between Club Vivien and CEO Vivien shattered into a million irreparable pieces. The taste of whiskey flooded her mouth. The phantom pressure of a body against hers made her skin prickle. The low murmur of only when. I'm very, very lucky echoed in her ears, grotesquely out of place in the sterile boardroom. Vivien moved towards the head of the table with the effortless grace of a predator. She didn't acknowledge the collective attention. She simply expected it. As she passed Claire's chair, her trajectory took her within inches. Claire froze. Utterly paralyzed, her gaze locked helplessly on Vivien's profile, and then it happened. Vivien's head turned. Not a sweeping glance for the room, but a deliberate pinpoint turn. Her sharp blue eyes found COA's held them. In that fraction of a second, the corporate mask didn't slip. It transformed. A spark ignited in those cool depths. Recognition, sharp and undeniable. Amusement, dark and thrilling. Possession, raw and electric. The corner of Vivien's perfectly painted crimson lips curved upwards. Not a smile for the room, but a secret, devastating smirk meant solely for Clare. She didn't break stride. She didn't pause. But as she passed so close, Clare could. Almost feel the displaced air, Vivien leaned in, just the slightest imperceptible tilt. Her voice low and husky, barely a breath, yet it cut through the silence of Clare's internal screaming like a scalpel, carrying the intimate heat of the club hallway straight into the corporate chill. Well, well, Vivien murmured the words. A velvet-wrapped blade loaded with 1,000 unspoken implications. Things just got interesting. And then she was past, moving to the head of the table, the embodiment of powerful CEO once more, leaving Clare Bennett sitting rigidly in her chair, her face burning with a furious, unmistakable blush, her knuckles white on the edge of the table, her entire world reduced to the echoing whisper and the lingering scent of expensive, subtly spicy perfume. Interesting. Clare's mind shrieked, a chaotic whirlwind of panic, disbelief, and a traitorous, undeniable thrill. Interesting was the club. This is catastrophic. This is HR nightmare fuel. This is Vivien took a seat at the head of the table, her expression once again cool and composed, already turning her attention to Helen. But Clare saw it. The faintest, satisfied curve still playing at the corner of Vivien's mouth. Clare realized with dawning terrifying clarity, had just entered a whole new arena, and she was hopelessly, irrevocably the prey. Part 5. The Cubicle Games. The fluorescent hum of the Sinclair media office became the soundtrack to Clare's slow-burning panic. The initial shock of Vivien's identity had subsided, replaced by a constant, low-grade thrum of awareness that vibrated beneath every mundane task. Filing reports felt like handling live wires. Answering emails required Herculean concentration to banish the phantom sensation of lips against hers. And the cubicle, her supposed safe haven, had transformed into the front line of a silent, exhilarating war. Vivien Sinclair, CEO, was a master strategist. Her campaign was subtle, relentless, and designed with the precision of a diamond cutter. It began innocuously enough. Clare was hunched over her keyboard, wrestling with a particularly tense analytics report when a shadow fell across her desk. She looked up, startled, to find Vivien standing mere feet away, not hovering, but paused as if considering the abstract print on the partition. Beside Clare's workspace, Ms. Bennett, Vivien's voice was cool. Professional, perfectly modulated for the open office. The Q2 projections Helen sent through. Have you had a chance to review the demographic breakdown on slide 7? Clare's brain scrambled. Slide 7, demographic breakdown. All she could see was the sharp line of Vivien's jaw. The wave of light caught the platinum streak in her otherwise honey blonde Shannon. Slide 7? Yes, the 25 to 34 cohort shows significant engagement uplift. Her voice sounded unnaturally high. Vivien didn't look at the report. Clare was frantically trying to pull up on her screen. Her gaze was fixed on Clare, a flicker of something unreadable in those blue depths. Indeed, she murmured. She took a single deliberate step closer ostensibly to peer at Clare's monitor. Her arm brushed Clare's shoulder, a feather light, fleeting contact that sent an electric jolt straight down Clare's spine. She flinched visibly. Interesting correlation with the social media spend. Vivien continued smoothly, leaning in slightly. Her expensive perfume, that same warm, spicy scent from the club, washed over Clare, an electric ambush. Clare could see the fine weave of Vivien's ivory silk blouse, the subtle pulse at the base of her throat. Her breath hitched. Wee Clare stammered, staring blindly at the numbers swimming on her screen, very correlative. Vivien straightened, her expression impassive. Carry on. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking a measured rhythm on the polished floor. Clare slumped in her chair, trembling, her shoulder tingling where Vivien had touched her. Plausible deniability, her panicked mind supplied. She needed to see the screen. It was an accident. The accidents multiplied. 2 days later, Claire was reaching for a binder on a high shelf. As she stretched, a sleek silver pen clattered onto the carpet tiles right beside her sensible black pump. Claire looked down, then up. Vivien stood a few feet away, holding a tablet, seemingly engrossed in its contents. She didn't glance at the pen, didn't acknowledge its fall. Claire hesitated, then bent to pick it up. As she straightened, pen in hand, Vivien's gaze lifted from the tablet. Her eyes met Claire's, holding them for a heartbeat longer than necessary. A ghost of a smile touched her lips as Claire silently offered the pen. "Thank you, Claire," Vivien said, her voice low, almost intimate, despite the surrounding office chatter. Her fingers brushed Claire's as she took the pen, a deliberate, lingering touch that felt like a brand. "So clumsy of me." The lie hung in the air, shimmering with unspoken meaning. Claire could only nod mutely, her face flaming. The cubicle became Vivien's preferred hunting ground. She'd appear like a silent predator, leaning against the partition to ask Helen a question, her body angled just enough so her gaze could drift towards Claire. She'd pause beside Claire's desk to clarify a point. From the morning briefing, her hand resting casually on the cubicle wall, inches from Claire's head. Once, while Claire was presenting a preliminary idea to Helen at her desk, Vivien materialized behind them. She didn't interrupt, just listened, her presence a palpable weight. When Claire finished, flustered under the dual scrutiny, Vivien merely sat, promising angle, Miss Bennett, explore the cross-platform potential. Before gliding away, her hand, however, trailed ever so lightly across Claire's shoulders as she passed, a whisper of contact that felt like a lightning strike. Claire nearly jumped out of her skin, earning a puzzled look from Helen. "Claire." "Honey, are you okay?" Layla asked during a coffee run later that week. "You look like you're constantly bracing for impact and you're blushing a lot." Especially, Layla lowered her voice, leaning inconspiratory, especially when Her Majesty glides past your cubicle. Claire nearly choked on her latte. "What? No, it's just the fluorescent lights and new job stress. Very stressful lights." Layla raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Right, the lights. And the fact that Helen mentioned the CEO seems to be taking an unusual interest in the marketing bullpen lately, specifically your corner of it." Layla's grin was wicked. "Spill Bennett, what's really happening in cubicle 3B? "Nothing," Claire insisted, her voice cracking. "Absolutely nothing HR-worthy is happening. She's just thorough, very hands-on with new initiatives." Oh God, if only you knew how hands-on. The memory of Vivien's fingers brushing her shoulder sent another wave of heat through her. "And maybe the thermostat is wonky near my desk?" Layla snorted. The CEO is making me sweat kind of wonky thermostat." "Got it." She nudged Claire playfully. "Just be careful. Okay, office romances are messy. Office romances with the CEO, that's a whole other level of potential disaster. And HR seminars." Claire groaned. "Don't. I cannot survive a single sexual harassment seminar right now. I'd spontaneously combust." The thought of sitting in a room learning about inappropriate workplace conduct while replaying Vivien's lips on hers in vivid technicolor was enough to induce hysteria. The campaign escalated beyond the cubicle. In the elevator, Vivien would step. And just as the doors were closing, forcing a tense, silent descent with only Claire for company, the air thick with unspoken electricity. In the sleek, minimalist cafeteria, Vivien would choose a table just within Claire's line of sight, holding meetings, or simply sipping espresso, her gaze occasionally drifting over, sharp and assessing. Once Claire fumbled her lunch tray, sending a fork clattering loudly. Vivien didn't look up from her tablet, but Claire saw the subtle, satisfied curve of her lips. The dreams were the worst or the best. Claire couldn't decide. Vivid technical replays of the club hallway kiss morphed into surreal office fantasies. Vivien cornering her in the supply closet, her tailored suit jacket unbuttoned. Vivien leaning over her desk, that crimson mouth descending. Claire would wake tangled in sweaty sheets, heart pounding, body humming with frustrated desire. The line between dream and dangerous reality terrifyingly blurred. One particularly brutal afternoon, Claire was wrestling with a malfunctioning spreadsheet. Her frustration mounting, the numbers refused to reconcile. She ran a hand through her hair, muttering curses under her breath. That's when the familiar scent washed over her, followed by the soft click of stilettos on the carpet. Vivien appeared beside her desk, a picture of cool composure. "Trouble, Miss Bennet?" Vivien inquired, her tone deceptively mild. Claire jumped, knocking her mouse off the desk. She scrambled to pick it up, her face burning, just recalcitrant data. "Miss Sinclair, nothing major." Vivien leaned one hip against the partition, her posture relaxed yet radiating intense focus. She looked down at Clare, her gaze traveling slowly from Claire's flustered face down the column of her neck to where her hand still clutched the mouse. That gaze felt like a physical touch. "You look tense, Clare." Vivien observed, her voice dropping to that low, intimate register that bypassed Claire's ears and went straight to her core. She took a half step closer, invading Claire's personal space. "Are you under pressure?" The double entendre hung in the air, thick and undeniable. The pressure of the job, or the pressure of Vivien's relentless, electrifying presence. Claire's mouth went dry. She met Vivien's eyes, seeing the challenge, the amusement, and the banked heat simmering beneath the professional facade. The spreadsheet was forgotten. The office faded. It was just Vivien, the scent of her, the intensity of her gaze, the unspoken promise and threat wrapped into one. Claire swallowed, her throat clicking. A spark of defiance fueled by sleepless nights and constant delicious torment flared within her. She tilted her chin up slightly, meeting Vivien's gaze hidden. Her voice, when it came, was surprisingly steady, laced with a dry, self-deprecating humor that masked her trembling nerves. "I'm being hunted," Claire stated plainly, her eyes locked with Vivien's in my own cubicle. A slow, dangerous, utterly captivating smile spread across Vivien Sinclair's face. It was a predator's smile, acknowledging the prey's awareness. She didn't deny it. She didn't move away. She simply held Claire's gaze, the air crackling between them. "Efficient hunting grounds," Vivien murmured, the words a velvet purr. "High yield, low visibility." She straightened the moment, stretching toward. "Carry on, Miss Bennet. Do try to relax." She turned and walked away, leaving Claire alone in her cubicle, her heart hammering against her ribs, the scent of expensive perfume lingering like a challenge. The game was on. Claire, despite the terror, the potential for disaster, and the looming specter of HR, realized with dawning, exhilarating clarity that she had absolutely no desire to run. Part 6. Meet me in my office. The summons landed in Claire's inbox like a grenade with a politely worded pin. From Vivien Sinclair v. Sinclair at sinclairdia.com to Claire Bennett C. Bennett at sinclairdia.com. Subject: quarterly schedule review. Urgent. Miss Bennett, please report to my office at 4:00 p.m. today to review discrepancies in the Q3 marketing rollout schedule. Bring the finalized campaign timelines and audience segmentation data. Regards, Vivien Sinclair, CEO, Sinclair Media. Claire stared at the screen, the sterile corporate font doing nothing to mask the seismic shift in the air around her cubicle. Discrepancies. The timelines were pristine, signed off by Helen yesterday. The segmentation data was locked down. This wasn't a request. This was a command, a trap. A meticulously laid snare in the heart of Vivien's domain. The hours crawled. Claire's fingers trembled over the keyboard. Every click of heels in the corridor made her jump. She rehearsed answers to imaginary questions about Q3 timelines, her voice sounding tiny and false in her own head. She smoothed her skirt, a deep burgundy today, a subconscious armor, and checked her reflection in her dark monitor. Pale, wide-eyed, a rabbit scenting the wolf. At 3:58 p.m., clutching a folder she didn't need, Claire stood outside Vivien Sinclair's office. The door was imposing, heavy, dark wood, bearing only a simple engraved plaque. Vivien Sinclair, Chief Executive Officer. It felt less like an entrance and more like the gateway to a dragon's lair. Taking a shuddering breath that did nothing. To calm her frantic pulse, she knocked twice. Sharp raps that echoed in the hushed executive corridor. Enter. The voice from within was cool, clear, utterly professional. Claire pushed the door open. Vivien Sinclair's office wasn't just a room, it was a statement. Expansive floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking, almost vertiginous view of the city skyline. Bathing the space in sharp afternoon light, the decor was minimalist perfection, sleek modern furniture and shades of charcoal and cream, punctuated by bold, abstract art on the walls. The air smelled faintly of lemon polish, expensive leather, and that unmistakable, subtly spicy perfume. Power hummed silently in the polished surfaces and the absolute unnerving quiet. Vivien sat behind a vast, uncluttered desk, the cityscape sprawling behind her like a conquered kingdom. She was a silhouette of sharp angles and tailored authority in a navy suit, her hair a flawless golden knot. She didn't look up immediately, her focus seemingly absorbed by a document in her hand, a worn blank pen held loosely between elegant fingers. "Miss Bennet," Vivien acknowledged, her voice still detached, her gaze still on the paper. "Close the door," Clare obeyed. The soft click of the latch engaging sounding unnaturally loud, sealing them in. The quiet pressed in thick and expectant. She took a few hesitant steps towards the desk, the plush carpet muffling her footsteps. "Have a seat," Vivien instructed, finally lifting her head. "Don't miss part 2. Subscribe and ring the bell to get the alert as soon as we upload."